Sarah had always considered herself spiritual but not religious. She would toss up the occasional prayer when things got rough, attend church on Christmas and Easter. Sometimes she would scroll through inspirational quotes on social media. That was enough, she thought. Her grandmother Rosa had been different. Every morning, without fail, Rosa would sit in her worn armchair by the window, Bible open on her lap, lips moving in silent prayer. As a child, Sarah would watch, fascinated by her grandmother's unwavering dedication, but also slightly puzzled by it. "Abuela, why do you spend so much time talking to God?" she'd ask. Rosa would simply smile and say, "Because he is always listening, my love." The day Rosa passed away, Sarah found herself in her grandmother's house surrounded by the remnants of a life deeply lived. On the side table, next to the familiar armchair, lay Rosa's Bible, its pages dog-eared and filled with handwritten notes in the margins. Curious, Sarah picked it up and began to read. Hours passed as she discovered her grandmother's spiritual journey documented in those margins. There were prayers for family members, including many for Sarah herself, notes about God's faithfulness during hardships, words of gratitude for answered prayers. Through these intimate glimpses, Sarah began to understand that her grandmother's faith wasn't just a habit or tradition. It was a genuine, living relationship. That evening, sitting in Rosa's armchair, Sarah closed her eyes and prayed her first genuine prayer in years. Not a casual request or a rehearsed grace before meals, but a heartfelt conversation. She realized that her grandmother hadn't just been going through the motions all those years. She had understood something fundamental that Sarah had missed. That God wasn't just a concept to acknowledge casually, but a living presence worthy of devoted attention and genuine relationship. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the room, Sarah felt a profound shift in her understanding. Her grandmother's legacy wasn't just in the Bible she'd left behind, but in the example she had set of taking God seriously, not as an afterthought or a cultural tradition, but as the very foundation of life itself. From that day forward, Sarah began her own journey of authentic faith. She kept her grandmother's Bible close, adding her own notes in the margins, building on the legacy of genuine devotion that Rosa had left behind. She discovered that taking God seriously wasn't a burden as she'd once feared, but rather the key to understanding the deeper purpose she'd always been searching for. Years later, when her own daughter asked why she spent so much time in prayer, Sarah would smile, just as Rosa had. She would share the story of how she learned that a casual faith was no faith at all. God deserves not just the margins of our lives, but the very center of them.